Good morning and welcome to Beaver TV, your daily dose of industry information. My name is Jamie McKean and I'm joined by James Shorey, Partnership Manager of PlanetMark. Great to have you here, James, again.
Thank you for having me.
And we're going to talk about the UK Net Zero Business Census 2025, which just was launched last week.
Last week, yeah.
Last week. So great to have you here, James. Just for our members, could you explain what the term net zero is? It's become a term which is quite politicized, quite controversial in recent times.
Mm.
But could you give us sort of a brief overview of actually what is net zero?
Yes, so net zero, in essence, is a global treaty that all countries in the world have signed after the Paris Accords in 2015, basically to try and reduce the emissions and climate change from those countries around to 1.5 degrees of global warming and well below 2 degrees. What that means for individual countries is they've all set net zero target dates. So for the UK, they've set a net zero target date of 2050, whereby they want to reduce the whole country's emissions by 90% and then look for carbon and nature solutions for the remaining 10%. So what that means for businesses effectively is basically just becoming more efficient, decarbonizing and looking at ways that you can become more future-proofed and more resilient to future change. So individually, businesses just need to try and align with the targets that the UK have set.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you. That's a really good overview. This is the second iteration of the Net Zero Business Census. There was one last year as well. Um, why are you doing this, and what is the purpose of the Net Zero Business Census?
Yeah, so the Net Zero Business Census, as is on screen, kind of has three objectives. So, one is just to inspire organizations to take net zero action. There's some amazing work that's going on. So, just sharing some of those stories is a great way to get businesses to think about how they can try and decarbonize. The next is, informing policymakers. So, the whole point of this report that I have here is to try and make sure that this goes in front of policymakers and government to make sure that they're aware of the good work that's happening in the private sector and then making sure that they're seeing what needs to change and what support they need as well. And then finally, advocating for the advancement of net zero as well, because this is something where every business in the UK has to try and achieve net zero. So just getting more people to start the journey or at least think about it is the main thing. If you go to the next slide, you can actually see that there's a bunch of different trade associations who are engaged with this. Beef are actually on there as well as one of the partners. And just to highlight that, this is something that PlanetMark has been working with the UK Business Climate Hub, sorry, and we've got a bunch of key partners as well, like the British Business Bank, who did an SME report, and some others like the Broadway Initiative and the British Chamber of Commerce as well, and Sage, who's the key insights partner. So this isn't just PlanetMark doing this work; it's a whole collaboration of different trade associations and big government bodies and corporates who've all come together to try and get this in front of policymakers. Like I said, if you go to the next slide, there's actually several layers to this. So in the first year, it was just PlanetMark and the Broadway Initiative and some of our key partners. This year, it does have oversights from the Desmond's Net Zero Council, which is headed by Ed Miliband. So that's the way that actually this year we're really confident that actually Ed Miliband and the Desmond's Net Zero Council are actually going to be looking at this, reviewing it, and actually implementing some changes to help support businesses.
That's great. I know Beefer was really proud to be a partner of this,
Yeah,
and
thank
also
you.
we filled out the census ourselves. And I know a number of our members, particularly members of our policy group, actually
Yep.
actively did the census. Would you say the response was the same or different from last time?
The response was relatively the same. So we had about 2,000 responses, but actually the data quality was a lot higher. We had
Okay.
really good verified business owners and business sustainability managers who actually responded to this. So we are confident that this year's results are a lot better than last year.
That's always
Yeah,
good. Always good to
yeah, yeah.
improve. Um, can you give us sort of a summary of the key findings and recommendations from the report that you found this year?
Yeah, so there were actually eight key summaries. So we've got the first four on here, and I don't want to go through all eight of them. You can read your own report. You can actually go to the netzerobusinesscensus.com and you can read them all there. But just to handpick a few, the biggest one, which
Mm.
we've known all the time and we saw last year, was that there are high costs and finance are the major barriers to
Yes.
adopting sustainability and net zero. And that's not going to change. And again, that's going to come down to policymakers and financial institutions to making sure sustainability is more affordable for all businesses. The other side as well is greater regulatory certainty is needed. And again, that's something where trade associations, government, consultants like PlanetMark, we're all going to have to come together and make sure that whatever the rules are put in place, whether that's in the UK or globally, we're trying to make sure that they are consistent and clear for all businesses, not just corporates, but SMEs as well. And if you go to the next four, again, you can read about all these yourselves, but there was a really interesting part included in this year's census that wasn't included last year about exporters. and honing in on the fact that if you're a UK business who actually deals overseas, and I guess this is especially important for freight forwarders and
Yes.
knowing about the work that your clients do, they're facing more stringent and complex regulatory requirements when they're dealing with overseas with regards to CBAM or CSRD or things like that, and they need a lot more support as well. And hopefully that's where Planet Mark and BIFA can provide a bit of support there for those members.
That's great. Yeah, and I said all these are available in the report, so members can go and have a look for themselves. Um, our our organization has a load of different types of members. We've got very big multinationals, and we've got
Mhm.
micro businesses, but the vast majority of BIFA's members are SMEs. Is there something that you did differently this time for SMEs? What was your data set look like? Did you have big organizations contribute to the census as well as small organizations? How did that sort of
Yeah,
work
we
out?
had a whole mix of different respondents, and this slide really shows not just the size of businesses, but also the type of role of the person who
Mhm.
responded as well. So we had C-suite level people as well as actual sustainability consultants and senior management as well. But yeah, just to highlight in your question, we did have 88% of respondents were SMEs, so that kind of matches what we see with the UK as a whole. And it's really important that it's not just the large organizations who are looking at net zero, it's also the SMEs who sit within their supply chains as well. So one thing that has actually happened this year, which didn't happen last year, is there's an SME specific report which was actually authored by the British Business Bank. So one takeaway from today is if you are an SME, please don't just read the census report, read the SME specific report as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting, that report. I recommend it to our members. We'll put it in the description below as well. So fantastic. When it comes to a lot of our members, they're asked for carbon emissions reporting data.
Yeah.
What did you find from the census? Was that a question that you asked?
It definitely was, yeah, and I think the main cause of this, all those requests, is again because of supply chain. So, if you are a large business, or around over 250 employees, or certain
Hmm.
turnover thresholds, you do fall within SECA, ESOS, CSRD if you operate in Europe. But if you're an SME, you usually don't have to report anything. There's no mandatory disclosures. But what we're finding more and more is if you are a supplier of a large business who does have to report to those things, you will have to report to them. So making sure that you have all of your carbon reporting in line is going to be more and more important, because we're seeing more and more that small SMEs are getting requests about carbon data more and more from these large businesses. And actually, again, one thing that's in the report, which is sort of builds upon this, is if you are an exporter and you deal with overseas customers, you're much more likely to get asked these questions about carbon, again, because of CBAM and CSRD. So making sure that you have your carbon reporting in line, we're seeing is becoming more and more important every single year.
Yeah, and basically you're part of these big organizations' scope free
Yeah,
emissions, so
exactly.
they're asking you for this data. That's great. What actions can we take, both BIFA members and also BIFA as a trade association itself, from the back of this report and the recommendations and the findings found?
Yeah, so one of the main things that we saw, especially with this support section, is we basically asked, like, what kind of support do you need? We asked all the businesses, what support do you need, and what support have you accessed? So we actually found that there are actually a vast swathe of the respondents who had requested no kind of support at all. Only 43% had actually got external support, and the majority, and like you can see the sort of low numbers here, and we've highlighted external consultants, which I would class Planet Mark under, and also trade associations like BIFA. Only 9 or 8% of those had actually been reached out to for support. So one thing that I'm really keen to make sure we do, not from Planet Mark's perspective and from BIFA's perspective, is to provide a lot more support to SMEs and large businesses alike. And you can see there's a bunch of other areas here around financing, tax credits, grants and funding. And I think these areas are going to be required if all businesses in the UK are going to try and start their net zero journeys.
That's great. And BIFA will continue to create resources and also
Yeah.
reach out to members, but also any member watching this and wants to find out more and it's got questions about sustainability, please get in touch with us
Yeah.
so that we can, increase these figures. Um, Sort of finally, James, thank you for this. But where can people find the report? Because there's not many physical copies around because it's sustainability, right? So where can they find the
Yeah,
report?
we only printed 80 of these.
Oh,
We
that's good.
we were trying to save paper, but yeah, there's a digital version on the businessclimatehub.uk/census, and there's a dedicated website, netzerocensus.co.uk, as well. Just to highlight that the Business Climate Hub is an amazing resource for
Mm,
all
yes.
SMEs. There's an SME Climate Hub specific as well, and there's a webinar which you can access here in the next few weeks to go through each individual question and some of the findings that we found in a lot more detail than what I went through today.
Thank you, James, for coming in and sharing your expertise on the report.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you all for watching. As I said, the link to the report we put in the description and also the link to the SME report. Thank you for watching Beaver TV, your daily dose of industry information.